everyone, this is Maren, and you're listening to Homeschool Unrefined, the podcast where we keep homeschool simple, real, and fun.
And this is Angela. You've got episode 88, where we empower kids to self-evaluate. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes, but before we do, we wanted to just say hello to all of our listeners. We are so glad you're here. We love, like we say always, we love hearing from you. We love getting DM'd and tagged and emails and all of that from all of you. And we just wanted to say a special hello to our Patreon supporters. If you're interested in supporting us on Patreon, you can go to patreon.com/homeschoolunrefined.
Yes. And I just wanted to, I think we have lots of new listeners, and we're so glad you're here too. And we just wanted to tell you a little bit about our podcast. We are a homeschool podcast that is here to help you feel good about what you are doing right now as a parent and a teacher for your kids.
For sure.
We want to empower you to be the person you are and celebrate that.
Right.
Really.
And we want to, a couple things we want to do is take things off of your plate rather than add more things to your plate, because we already have a lot going on. We have a lot of things we want to do and wish we could do, and we think we need to do to be better at our jobs. And that we don't need any more of that. So we are here to hopefully remove some of that pressure and guilt and all those feelings that you need to do more.
Right. So we're really here to maybe help you think differently about homeschooling. Instead of thinking about all the things to do, maybe think about all, the ways to be, just be with your kids and be yourself, and find ways that you take joy in homeschool and take joy in your family and things like that. So because all those things we really believe help so much in learning. So if we can focus on these things that are just the foundational for you and your kids, so much learning is going to happen.
And we also like to have fun and laugh a lot.
We do.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we talk about homeschool, for most of the podcast, but for parts of the podcast too, we bring in some other fun stuff.
Exactly. Angela and I have been friends for 20 years.
I know.
20 plus.
Yeah.
So we've had a lot of things to laugh about over the years, and you guys get to be a part of it now.
Yay. So you may have noticed in your podcast app that we have a new logo, which we are super excited about.
Totally.
Because when we started this podcast, it's been almost 2 years. So almost 2 years ago, our logo was, we really liked it. We like it. Yeah. We like our old logo. But, when you start a podcast, that's one of the things you have to have right away for Apple Podcasts. And it was like, what can we had no idea how to even make one or what to do. So we just had to put one together.
We had a friend help us, which was so nice. She kind of did it. She did it as a favor to us, which was
for sure
so nice.
For sure.
And we kept thinking, this is just temporary. This is going to help us get started on our...
To launch it.
We just need something to put in that space. So, and here we are 2 years later.
Finally getting a new one.
With the same, so we finally got a new one.
Yeah. So we really like it, and we hope you do too.
Same podcast, same, we are still the same people, but just a different logo.
Right. Yeah. And we changed our intro a little bit, which is another thing that we have been wanting to do.
Yes, we have. It's been on our list of to-dos for a long time. So.
I know. So we finally did that, and our outro too. You'll just notice a few changes. So we hope you like those.
Yeah, let us know what you think. So Angela, I'm so excited to hear about your big concert that you went to this weekend.
We went to a big concert.
T-Swift.
Taylor Swift.
Yep.
We went, the whole family. It was really exciting.
That's so great.
I know.
What fun parents.
Oh, well, thank you. No.
You know how to have fun.
Well, actually, my one daughter was kind of begging us to go.
Yeah.
So she asked several times. And I thought, tickets went on sale last December. We're not going to get tickets. Like, these things it's sold out. There's no way to get tickets. And so I thought, just to humor her, I looked it up, and there were still many tickets available.
Yeah.
Like a few weeks ago.
And like many cheap tickets too.
Many cheap tickets available. So I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess we could do this. So we did it. And it was, it was my kid's first like major concert. And it was my first major concert in years.
Yes.
And so I was kind of blown away.
Do you remember what your last major concert was?
No.
Okay.
I'm just going to guess the Dixie Chicks or something like that.
Okay.
You're like, yep, I'm not impressed.
Oh no, I love the Dixie Chicks.
You do? Okay.
Yeah. I'm not big into country, but I do like the Dixie Chicks.
Yeah, okay. But that was probably 15 years ago. I don't know. I'm sure I've been to one since then, but I it used to just be like you went to a major concert, and there was a stage, and then they like got up on stage and sang.
There were some dancers and some lights, right?
Yeah. This was like a production.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the highest production value ever. I mean, it was the lights, the stages,
so
the
I've
dancing.
heard.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
And I don't know, are all concerts like that now? Like all major concerts?
I don't think all of them, but I think, some of them. Yeah, it's a thing.
Yeah.
I'm sure Taylor Swift has a pretty big budget though. Think about it. You know, it's pretty awesome though. And also I think she's into putting on a great show. I mean, I think that's really important to her.
She really did. She put on a great show. I like her music anyway. Yeah. So I didn't hate that I was going.
Yeah.
I was excited about it too.
You were not drugged to this place.
Yeah,
Dragged?
Right. Drugged?
No.
Dragged?
I think
either one.
Something different.
Either one.
Okay.
No, I didn't. I loved going to. But so I like her music, but also I loved she was just really positive in her messaging. Great. She was very uplifting to all the girls. Obviously there's so many young girls there.
Yes.
Her backup dancers were all like amazing women. I just loved watching them. She had two like opening acts who were great too. I don't know. You could tell she was there to lift up women, which I really appreciated. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I felt like, wow, I have not been to a concert where it was led by such strong women.
Yeah.
Such a big concert. So
that makes me want to find some more strong women concerts.
Well, I'm sure there are. I haven't been to one.
Yeah.
So
I think they're all over. We are not in that zone of finding them out,
Oh yeah. And I don't know, like, because I'm older now, the idea of going to a major concert with all the lights and the noise and I'm a highly sensitive person. So it's not like
you couldn't do it often or anything.
I could, and when I was younger, it would be so exciting to see someone famous.
Yeah.
Like, that's what my kids were excited about. They get to see someone famous.
Yes.
And I'm not, that's not a big deal to me anymore. So I wouldn't choose to go to a huge, big concert like this. So it's hard for me. That part was like hard. But yeah.
Do you remember any concerts you and I have gone to together?
Did we go to Bare Naked Ladies?
Yeah. We went to Bare Naked Ladies.
Okay,
together.
Yeah. Okay.
That was kind of a big deal.
It was a big deal. I remember.
I don't know. Have we gone to any other concerts?
Oh, I'm sure.
I'm sure we have.
Gosh.
I think lots of local.
I think we've talked about it here, but we've probably forgotten.
There's a local band, kind of local, Story Hill. I'm sure we've seen them lots of times together.
Yeah, in college.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was our big weekend.
Oh, so exciting.
So exciting.
All right.
So today we are talking about empowering our kids to self-evaluate.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that, you mentioned to me that you think we both do.
Mm-hmm.
You think I do it. Yes. And I didn't even really notice that it was something that I do consciously. But now that you've pointed it out to me, I see that it is something I really value.
It is. Oh, yes. I see it in you for sure. And I see you doing it with your kids all the time.
Yeah. Well, and you too.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks.
So we thought we should talk about it.
Yep, for sure. I think it's so important. I mean, it's a good thing to start the school year thinking about thinking about this, because even before school starts, we can do this. I like to talk to each of my kids individually before we really start school and ask them what they're interested in doing this year. What do you want to work hard on?
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to work hard on? Because, that tells you a lot. And I think that's a lot of self-evaluation right there.
For sure.
And so that's what I think got me started thinking about this. And then I thought, there's so many ways we can do this throughout the school year too.
Right.
So,
yeah. So let's start with the why. Why do we think it's important to empower our kids to self-evaluate?
Yeah, right. I know. So it is important. And I think we very subconsciously know it's important, and we probably even know why it's important, but to speak it out loud and to say these things, I think it makes us more conscious about actually doing it. Yeah. So I think, this is a very general reason. We can get into the specifics of it, but if we want our kids to grow up and fully own who they are as a person, we need to give them the opportunities to practice that now. And that doesn't mean give them, all the freedom and responsibilities of an adult, but we need to kind of do that scaffolding for them throughout their childhood. So, when they're young, they can do self-evaluation in very small ways. And as they grow older, they can do it more and more in depth. And that way, when they become adults, they are fully functioning self-evaluators, and they are ready to make lots of decisions and kind of even speak up for themselves. And there's lots of things they can do as an adult.
Right. Because I think what we don't want to do is never talk about it and never give them opportunities to practice. And then when they get to be an adult and they're on their own, that would be the first time they've ever done that.
Right.
I feel like that was maybe me. I don't know. I feel like I'm a late self-evaluator. I feel like I didn't really start thinking about why I tick or what I am good at or what I'm not so good at until, I don't know, my 20s.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I did when I was younger and I don't remember it, but
I think that makes so much sense. So I think that's so normal.
Yeah.
Because even in a regular high school setting, when there's lots of opportunities to give teenagers room to self-evaluate or time to self-evaluate. And I think they maybe do a little bit, but I think they could do so much more, because I just think about when I was in high school, there were lots of required classes, and, I could choose some things. Yeah. I could choose music or no music classes, like band or no band, or
you could home ec or shop.
Home ec or shop, so, but that's really, I would say, pretty obvious choices. Yeah. But what, there are so many other things, when you're doing math, how do you like to do math? Do you like to sit at a desk, or do you like to work with someone? Is that how you're finding it more helpful, or is there a certain resource that helps you get to how things work out? I mean, there's just so many detailed things that I think if you're not talking about those things, then kids aren't maybe going to even realize that there are choices there.
Right. And I think once you talk about it, then they start to notice that in themselves. And they're not even probably going to notice unless it's brought to their attention.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. How about, are there any other good reasons? Can you think of?
Well, I think it's really important for kids and adults, everybody, to know your strengths, to know what you're good at. And this is tough. I mean, I think this is tough. It's tough for me to know what I'm good at and to name that and to be confident in that. So I think the more we can give that language to our kids,
right,
and trying to help them discover that for themselves, I think the better.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And what a gift you're giving your kids.
Yeah.
And a unique gift too, really.
Yeah.
Because I don't think this is, in the mainstream totally valued.
Right.
I mean, I think to some extent, like I said, but it's just, if this is one of your main goals, I think, as a parent or homeschooler, you're giving them such a gift. And then on the flip side, knowing your limits too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the opposite of strengths maybe, or I don't know if it's the opposite of strengths, but to know
Yeah.
your limits, you know, to say, well, like, I mean, if you can imagine a teenager feeling empowered to say, you know what, I'm not really into going into a car with like 6 other people and, you know, with loud music. I don't feel comfortable with that.
Right.
Or, you know, I'm not comfortable going to this party or something like that.
I need a break now. Like I've had all
exactly.
all this stimulation, whether it be a bunch of people or whatever. I need to give myself a break now.
Right. I was thinking of my oldest daughter, who's very good at this. She will often very diplomatically, you know, tell me, Mom, you're doing such a good job as a homeschool parent, and I think you know, we work so hard, but this isn't working for me. And then she'll
awesome.
give me a hug. I know, it's so nice.
That is so awesome.
How can I not, you know, how can I say no to that? I mean,
you can't.
No.
She already knows the sandwich technique. And she says it in a way that's not like, you know, I mean, very diplomatically. That is so great.
Right. So I'm very thankful that she can do that. And I hope she feels comfortable doing that, you know, her whole life. But the more she practices that now, the more she will feel comfortable doing that later in life, I hope.
Right. I think this is also good because it gives kids self-confidence.
Yes.
And, you know, I think that is something that we talk a lot about. It's kind of like a buzzword phrase.
Yep.
Self-confidence or self-esteem or whatever. And, you know, we're always trying to figure out, like, how to help kids with that.
Yep.
And I think this is a way you can do that because when you build up who they really are, build that up into them so that they know who they really are. Like we talked about what we're good at, where their limits are. I think that gives them the confidence moving forward to ask for those things or
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's them giving themselves self-confidence, you know, kind of like, it's not like we're pouring.
Yeah. Good point.
You know, filling them up. We're not doing it. We're like giving them the ability to do it themselves.
Right.
So good. I also think it helps kids go, you know, it gives them direction, and which is great when you're 8 or 10, but it's also going to be really, really helpful when you're 18 or 20 or 22 or 40.
For sure.
You know, to be able to self-evaluate and say, okay, this, you know, I need to choose a path here, and which one is going to work best for me.
Right. Oh, I would have loved this so hard.
I know. No kidding.
I know. I think, and I think also, you know, that doesn't have to be a permanent thing for them, but just knowing like, this is what I'm good at or interested in or where I shine now. And so I'm going to use that information moving forward, and it may change. My interests and things that I'm into, experiences might change me. And so just knowing that, like I said before, that language and that ability to, you know, figure that out for themselves, I think will be so helpful for them.
Oh my gosh. I know. And also, I think it's good for kids to know when to ask for help. And if they're self-evaluating and they're like, you know what, this is challenging to me right now, and I don't really understand this. And they can do that, and they know when to ask for help.
Right.
This is one I never learned as a child.
Gosh,
probably not even as an adult. It's hard for me.
Yeah.
But I remember in college every professor told me there's a writing center. Just people are sitting there waiting to help you. You know?
Yeah.
Or they'd say math tutors right here. Just go talk to one of them or whatever. I never did because I thought that was for people who were struggling, not doing well, and, you know,
it was a sign of weakness.
It was a sign of weakness or something, and I just thought, no, I can't. That's not for me.
Yeah.
But I think it's very powerful to ask for help.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's another sign of self-confidence. Like when you have confidence in yourself, know what you're good at, know what you need help with, you know, then asking for help is not a big deal.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So good.
Okay. So we thought we would talk about some things that we do and some things that we don't do when we are teaching our kids to self-evaluate, when we're
Right.
empowering them to self-evaluate.
Yeah.
So, Maren, what are some things that you do?
Well, like I said at the beginning of this talk, I like to talk to my kids one-on-one. Before the school year, we talk one-on-one and talk about, what our plans. And then intermittently throughout the year, we just, I like to make one-on-one connections. I have 4 kids. And so even when we're having a family discussion, that's great in so many ways because I think it's good for everybody to hear each other and where they're coming from too and their process. But I think it's also so important for us to just be able to sit one-on-one so that a child feels comfortable enough to, share whatever it is. And the more we do that, the easier it is for that child to talk about what's going on.
Yeah, right. So in those one-on-one conversations, you're just talking.
Yeah. We're just talking and I'm just asking pretty open-ended questions like, how do you think, writing is going or, whatever it is, whatever.
Yep.
Or what do you think, how do you feel about homeschool right now? How's everything going?
Yeah. That is so important. I like what you said about the difference between speaking one-on-one and in a group. I think I'm really good at the group talk, the group discussions. We have a lot of those. I'm not so good at the one-on-one.
Yeah.
I think they're both important. I think they're both super important. When we do the group discussions, that's when my kids are able to assert themselves, in a group.
Yeah. They feel safer. Yeah.
Yeah. They're able to assert. Yep. Assert what they're thinking and saying. It gives them practice to, I don't know, like, I don't want to say compare, but bounce like what they're thinking off of what somebody else is thinking. Yep. So I think that's really, really good too. I need to get better at the one-on-one. I do that sometimes, but not as much. So,
well, also I think just any kind of connection is so important. One-on-one connection. I mean, I think even just like a hug or a kiss or,
Oh yeah.
This year I'm really going to try and do more one-on-one reading with my kids because they love it. They eat it up when it's just me and one other person reading. And there's no talk about self-evaluation, but there is that connection and the safety is just growing there between us.
For sure.
Yep. How about you, Angela?
Another thing that I try to do is to take them seriously.
Yes.
In whatever they're saying or whatever they're sharing, and try to validate that, which we talked a lot about in our book talk about how to talk so kids will listen.
Yes.
So there were lots of good strategies for that in that book. But I think sometimes when my kids say something about themselves, like, well, I'm not good at this or something, I think the tendency might be to say, oh, yeah, you are. Or, yeah, remember you did this or something like that to take their attention away from that thing that they're not very good at. But I think just even like nodding your head and saying, oh, yep, or I see that you feel that way, or I understand why you might feel that way, or something like that, just validating their feelings, I think is so important and so often overlooked with parents.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is so true. And I think when I try to correct my kids in those ways, it's me trying to impart who I am onto them in some way. And and they are their own person. And I need to discover who that person is. And
for sure.
Yeah. It's so tough though. It's so hard to do that, I think, as a parent.
It's hard.
To let go of that control.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times because they're kids, I think kids are taken less seriously than adults,
Yeah.
In
Absolutely.
general with adults. And so like whenever we're in a conversation when my kids are also present, I really try to take what they're saying seriously. Even if it
because we want them to expect to be taken seriously by other people.
Yeah.
And then if they're not, then that's not going to feel good to them. Right. And I think that's good. It's good that they have that inside of them.
For sure.
Oh, yeah. That is so good. And then I think something that goes along with that, Angela, is take them seriously and then let them just process things. Yeah. We don't have to have answers.
Yep.
for them.
Right.
We don't have to wrap it up tight, you know, nicely in a bow. Exactly. It doesn't have to be pretty necessarily, because we most of the time spend our lives in a process. And, you know, we have to be comfortable in a process. It's good to be in a process.
For sure.
Good. Yeah.
You are so good. You've taught me this a lot, because you say this a lot. You say it's a process.
Yes.
Like, we don't have to, that's what we're doing, like, on this podcast, or as homeschool parents, or as like being married, or whatever it is. It's a process. It's not like, oh, and now I figured it out.
Right.
Because I did these 3 steps.
Or can we just figure this out? Like, that's what I always want to do. Can we just get to that next level and just be there for a while? And because it feels more comfortable, for sure.
It does. It does. So it's hard to say, gosh, that's hard, and I don't know how to answer that yet. And it's too bad that we're stuck in this right now. But
I also think it's good for our kids to see us in a process. I used to think my parents were at a level, you know, like always.
That you just had to achieve someday.
Yes. I just always thought they were at some level. They were done processing everything. They were they were done. Like, they've had arrived. And the older I get, the more I realize, no, that's not actually true at all.
No.
I'm never actually going to get to a level.
It's a little disappointing. Yeah.
But it also is, I do feel empowering too, because I feel like, they're, you know, like, we're all in the same boat. You know, there's not people who have arrived, and I am never going to attain that.
No.
That's not actually the case.
Right. Right. And I think that is common for kids to think that. I mean, they think of adults as like, you're an adult. You have this figured out. And so you're right. It is real helpful for them to see us struggling or figuring something out, or, you know, learning to deal with something that's hard.
Right. Yep. So true.
Yeah.
I also, on the flip side of that, I love listening to people who are, you know, experts at something, and they will give us a blip of, you know, a little piece of knowledge that they know, and you just know it's like the tip of the iceberg. Just the way they say it, you're like, holy cow, you know so much. And that's inspiring to me too. So I mean, I also think it's good for kids to be exposed to people who, you know, have arrived at something, you know, they've done some accomplishment, and they've done something amazing, and that is something they can aspire to, but it's not out of reach either. It's not out of reach.
And it doesn't mean that person has arrived in all areas.
Right. Exactly. I used to think that.
Yeah. They maybe just have this little bit of wisdom in this one area.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I also think it's important to ask kids their opinions about things. Again, this one is hard for me. I mean, I do it, but I also like sometimes think, well, I mean, I'm going to ask your opinion, but I really just know mine, or I already know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
This is for show here. And I gotta stop that, because their opinions are good and valid just as much as mine.
Yes. Yeah.
Just as much as mine. And so and I think that gives them a sense of empowerment. Like, oh, my parents or these adults in my life value what I think.
Yeah. And there are sometimes, I mean, and this can't be all the time, especially if you have multiple children, but like sometimes whatever their opinion is, you can just go with it. Maybe sometimes. I mean, well, what should we have for dinner? You want spaghetti again? Okay. Well, that was, you know, you get to decide tonight. Yeah. Tonight is your choice. So it's good to have I mean, the other thing is kids like to feel safe in their parents' opinions too. So, you know, on movie night, a lot of times, Sean and I differed so differently on this. Like, he would rather be, you know what? I've already made a decision on what movie we're watching, and this is it. And I can go the other way, where I'm like, I would like everybody's opinion, and let's talk about it all for like an hour, and we still can't decide what should we do. And I think sometimes I think it's good for kids to just know, okay, I get to express my opinion, and then it's good for a parent to just decide sometimes.
My parents have this covered.
Yes, my parents have got this covered. And we don't have to sit here in turmoil for like 2 hours trying to figure this out. So.
Right.
Yeah.
That family movie night is sure a way to like process a lot of this. A lot of the things we're talking about.
Yes, that could be a study on this subject.
Okay, so let's talk about some things that we don't do.
Ooh, I love talking about things I don't do.
Yeah. Okay, so
So Angela, would you want to just tell us one thing you don't do?
Okay, so I don't force a subject / schedule or curriculum.
Wow, that's kind of I mean, I think that to a lot of homeschoolers could be just like shut the front door. You do not force a subject. Like you don't have.
Well, I know. As I said it, I was thinking, do I
backpedal a little there?
Do I not force anything?
Yeah.
Okay, so force. Yeah, no, I don't force anything.
Yeah.
I do not force anything.
Yep.
No, I can say that confidently.
Good.
There are a few things I encourage or I leave space for, or I just leave space for it to grow. Like you talk about like preparing the environment.
Yeah.
There are a few things I prepare the environment well for so that they'll do it.
Very good.
But I don't think I force anything, really. Yeah. So, and that's something I have just learned. I mean, I've been homeschooling now. I think this is our 7th year. I should really count. I can't remember. But I've been homeschooling a long time. And I did used to force stuff. So this is, like you said, a process for me.
Yeah.
And I think
all of us
finally arrived at not forcing things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
How about you? Are you
I don't know if I've arrived at that spot yet.
Really?
I mean,
gosh.
No. I want to be a person who does not force. I think in most contexts I don't. Like if there's crying and screaming or like bad moods, I'm not forcing it then. Yeah. But I also say, you don't get to do something fun if you don't finish this thing. I mean, or sometimes it's like this has to happen. So but also it's good, I think there are times when maybe that's okay, but I think it's just so tiny.
I think what I mean by that is I have their buy-in before we start.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's upper level thinking here, Angela. That's amazing.
Okay.
That's so great that you do that.
Well,
and I want to do that.
Like
I want that.
I do what you do. Where I talk to my kids about what they want to do this year, what they're excited about, what they want to learn. I do that. And then I say, here's what I'm thinking for this year. I'm thinking these are the things we're going to focus on.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah.
And I get their buy-in that way.
Yeah,
so that then there are times maybe when I say, you can do this fun thing, like you can do screens after you're done with this.
Right. I think this is so good because I think it would change the conversation.
Yep.
About, how and when we decide to teach certain subjects to kids or whatever. Because, like I think of my kids with reading.
Yeah.
Nobody was ready to read when all the other public school kids were learning to read.
For sure. Yeah.
And I think if I would have forced reading at that time to my kids, it would have been a huge mistake. And I don't think anybody would have loved reading. And so, so I think, anyway, so not forcing a subject. It's very good. And I think this is what you've done a lot too, Angela. Like we all have things that are super important to us that we want our kids to learn, like spelling, things like that. But I have seen you do this. Like you're like, you know what? Instead of doing 5 days a week, an hour every day, we're going to cut it down to like 1 or 2 days a week for 15 minutes. And that's going to be better.
Yeah.
Because my kids are telling me that other way isn't working.
Yeah. I do cut things down. You've done that too.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But when I see you do it, then I'm like, oh yeah, see, it's okay. Angela's doing it.
That's what I think about you too.
That's why we need each other. That's why we all need each other, you guys. And we need to, just be open about what we're doing, because it's going to free someone else up to make that decision too.
For sure. Okay, Maren, what else do you not do?
Okay, so one thing I try not to do is shame my kids into if something's not working for them. I may have spent a ton of money on a curriculum or something, and I put all my eggs in this basket for and it might not work.
Yeah.
That's not my kids' fault.
Yeah.
That's not their fault. And to make them feel bad about it not working for them is very counterproductive. So if they're telling me, listen, Mom, I can't, this isn't working for me, or I'm having a hard time with this, or they're saying it in a much, harsher way.
Right. Yeah.
It's all the same message though. Like, this isn't working.
Right.
It's okay. It's okay if it's not working.
For sure. That's great. And that's another way that you're taking them seriously and what they're saying.
Yes. So true.
You're honoring what their feelings about a certain way that you want to do things. You're honoring, like, this is the way that's going to work for me, or this is the good thing for me. And you're saying, okay, even though that's not my, not my first choice, or not the plan, or whatever, not what I had in mind, or not what I spent money on, I'm going to honor what you're saying.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's so good. That's so good.
How about you, Angela? Anything else you don't do?
I don't do any grades.
Mm-hmm.
Do you do grades?
I don't.
Don't do grades.
No.
And I think the reason is, and when I say grades, I mean like evaluating as being like good or bad, or right or wrong. Some bit of work that they're doing.
Right.
Okay. So I don't do that because, like you were saying before, this is all a process. We're all in a process of learning. And so I think wherever they are at that moment is great.
Yeah.
Like, it's good. It's where they're supposed to be.
It's where they're supposed to be. And I think that's so hard for us to see that sometimes.
Yeah. And so, like, me evaluating that as being not good enough or good enough is not helpful.
They're coming to you with, like, this is who I am. This is who I am, and this is where I'm at. And to say, well, that's good or bad.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so tough. Even if it, like, on the surface, it looks like you just weren't trying, or, you're trying to mess this up. Well, guess what? That's who they are. They're trying to tell you this isn't working.
They're communicating something to you.
Yeah,
for sure. All right. So then we just thought we'd give some examples. I know we've talked about a few examples here.
We have,
already.
Yeah.
We've kind of given lots of examples. But do you have any more examples, Maren, of how this works?
Yeah, I think like audiobooks is a good one, because, my kids have told me in not so direct ways that eye reading is really hard for them.
Yeah.
It has been. I have a child with dyslexia and ADHD, and I think probably more than one. But only one child has been evaluated. But I think that that's a real issue. Mm-hmm. And audiobooks are, when my kids listen to audiobooks, I mean, a whole new world opens up for them. And I see that, and they're, they've let me know that that's really, it's a pleasure to learn when they're listening to audiobooks. So yeah,
that is so
that's
good.
One thing.
Yeah. And I've learned that from you too, I will say, because I think you very early jumped on that train of this being like being just as good as eye reading.
Right. Yeah.
And kind of shutting down any like, oh, but it's not as good. Like, oh, but we still need to learn this and do this.
Yeah.
Do the eye reading lots.
Yeah.
And so that has really helped me. That's really opened my eyes up too, because I do feel like it's shaming. It's shameful to say, well, my way of reading or the way that it's always been done is the right way. Yes. And then your like adaptive way is not. It's
just like a subpar way of listening. And that doesn't feel good. Now, I have talked to my kids, especially as they're getting older now. Like this summer we had some goals for eye reading, and my kids, really pushed back on that. They're like, but audiobooks you've told us audiobooks are so good. And, and I just said, you are right. Audiobooks are so good, and you can keep doing audiobooks for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
But eye reading is, it's like flexing a muscle, and if you don't do it very often, it's just not going to get bigger. So I just want you to work on that too. I mean, I want you to work on it. It's just one thing I want you to work on. It's not like this central focus thing where it's like the best thing, and audiobooks are just less important.
Right. Well, because in life, they're going to have to read with their eyes.
Yes, exactly.
You know, not everything comes in an audio format.
Exactly.
So it is a skill they are going to have.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. That's so
all
good.
right. Yeah. So Angela, any other good examples of ways? That
okay.
And I think these examples basically are like the results of our kids self-evaluating, right? And this is what we've done.
Okay. Another thing that I've done is like documentaries.
Yes.
And not just, okay, so here's the difference. Not just adding that on as like, for example, after you've done the history curriculum, then you add on a documentary kind of for fun. Mm-hmm. It's like, no, the documentary can actually count as what you're doing for history.
Right.
Or a part of it.
Yeah, and it's not like after you've done your work for the day at 3 p.m., then you can watch a documentary. No.
Right,
yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's not the fun thing that happens after.
Right.
Yeah, and so I think because TV is relatively new, screens are kind of a big, conversation right now.
Definitely.
People are afraid of their kids having more screen time, which I understand. I think because of all that, we shy away from, we would shy away from a documentary or a TV show or a movie.
Yeah, I was just going to say some kind of movie too.
Yeah.
Can be a great learning experience.
For sure. Mm-hmm. And so I try not to shy away from that because I think it's just another way of taking the information in. And if we can get as many of those ways as possible, that is how we're going to grab certain parts of our kids' learning styles.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So good. And then some other things that we just have already talked about in this episode, but I'll just reiterate them. Taking breaks is so important to listen to your kid. It's so important to listen to your kids and realize when it's time to take a break.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's after 5 minutes.
Sometimes it's after 5 minutes.
Yeah. Or sometimes the whole morning has to be a break. I mean, really, it just does.
And sometimes, they don't know that yet. And so I think it's giving them that language. Like you said, this is a scaffolding kind of process. Like we're helping them to figure it out. So when they're younger, it's, it seems like you need a break now.
Yeah.
And then as they get older, hopefully they'll be like, hey, I need a break right now.
Yep. And not in a negative way. Like, oh my goodness, you cannot sit still. You need to take a break. It's like, I see you. It looks like you might need a break. Should we take some time? Yeah.
Or you might need something to eat, or you might need to go like get some energy out or something. Yeah.
So good. And then just having kids be part of the curriculum decisions, like you talked about a lot too. I think that's great.
Yeah.
So helpful.
So important.
Yep.
This was a great conversation, Maren.
It was.
This is so interesting because when you brought this topic up to me, initially I felt like, I don't have anything to say about that.
You think that a lot.
I do think that a lot. And now that we've talked about it, I was like, and actually I could say a lot more.
Yeah. This could be a 2 episode.
Let's have a part 2. Yeah. So that was great.
Yeah.
I love that.
So good.
Let's move on to loving this week.
All right. Angela, what are you loving this week?
Okay. I am loving an essential oil blend.
Ooh. Nice.
Yep. It is from Doterra, and it's called Past Tense. Have you used it?
Never heard of it.
Okay. So it says it's a tension blend. So I have it in a roller ball, and I use it for headaches and dizziness. So I get headaches and dizziness kind of often.
Yeah.
And it's funny is I had this roller ball of Past Tense in my arsenal, and I just never used it.
Yeah.
For a long time. And then for some reason I discovered it again. I went back to my all my essential oils, and I discovered it, and I started using it. And if I put it on like the back of my neck right when I'm getting a headache or right when I'm getting dizzy, it will stave it off.
Wow.
Which is kind of amazing because I'm not I mean, I like essential oils. I do. I like essential oils.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're like completely magical.
Yeah, right, right.
I don't think they can cure every ailment.
Exactly.
Or they haven't for me.
Yeah.
And so I was surprised. I was really surprised. So I now carry this roller ball around with me all the time. And I'm putting it on all the time. I really like it. And then I ran out and I didn't know anybody who sold Doterra. And I don't like to...
Yeah, I know.
I don't like to have to find somebody and then have to put in an order with them. So I don't do that.
I'm not a fan
but
of
I found it on Amazon.
Oh, good.
I think it might have even been Prime. But then so I got some that way, but then I thought I could just make some too with...
What are the oils in there? Do you know?
Okay, so one of them, the one that I like the best is wintergreen.
Okay.
It's like my favorite scent. So I think that helps because I'm like, oh, this smells so good.
Yes.
And then, okay, so my eyes are bad here. Lavender, peppermint, and more that I can't read.
Okay.
Because it's very small. But I did Google a recipe for it, and there's a recipe, and so I thought, someday,
Nice.
if I want to,
yeah,
I might
right.
But
how awesome that Doterra, you can buy Doterra on Amazon.
Yeah, I don't know how that works, but
I don't either. But that's pretty awesome.
Just trusting it.
I'll take it.
Yeah. So, Maren, what are you loving this week?
So I am loving a new, probably very limited edition kombucha flavor.
Oh, yeah.
And it's actually a summer edition. I'm very sorry, everyone. But I think it's still out there. It's GT's is the brand.
Oh, yeah.
And it's the summer edition, Unity Kombucha is what it's called. Unity.
Okay.
And I accidentally got it from my Shipped shopper who couldn't find the kombucha I actually wanted. So she got me some of these, which was totally fine. And I fell in love with it. It's so good.
What's
says
the
here,
flavor?
So it says that it's cherry, coconut, and lemongrass.
Okay.
Which I can barely believe. It's just a very light, it's got some tang, but it's not too much. I love the combination. Yeah. So
awesome.
And I'm loving it over crushed ice. It's my it's my new favorite way to drink kombucha is crushed ice.
Crushed ice.
And I don't know why, because I've never liked crushed ice. I always thought that was like a ridiculous feature of my fridge ice maker.
Yeah.
Like, why do you?
Because I always hate it when somebody accidentally puts it on crushed ice and then I get some.
Me too. I have felt the same way very strongly until I got this kombucha flavor. And I just decided this is how I'm going to drink kombucha from now on.
Wait a minute. So do you use a straw? Because the reason I don't like crushed ice is all those little ice particles.
Yes. Either a straw or I got this, an insulated cup with a cover on it.
Yeah. Okay.
So the ice can't get through the little hole.
Yeah.
So
nice.
Loving it.
I'm going to try that. You know, hopefully, they're just trying out this flavor for the summer to see if people like it.
Yeah,
and then they'll add it as a regular flavor.
Yeah, and I know it's still at our co-op, our local co-op right now.
Oh,
so,
yeah. Okay.
I mean, it's still around.
Get it now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody, for listening. If you want to connect with us on social media, we would love that. We are on Facebook and Instagram at Homeschool Unrefined. We do have a closed Facebook group that we would love to have you join.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Unrefined Homeschoolers. And if you do, there's a question you have to answer. So make sure you answer that question and then we'll let you in.
Mm-hmm.
And you can find our website too, Homeschool Unrefined, where you'll see links to everything that we talked about. And we will see you next week.
Thanks for listening.
Homeschool Unrefined is created and produced by Maren Gorse and Angela Sizer. Ethan Miller is our editor, and Amanda Ginn is our VP of all the important things.